Good evening, everyone.
Evening, Adam. I hear you're the master and commander of this meeting.
I don't know about that. My best.
You're handling the tag. That's first and foremost.
Hi, Principal Mons.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Hello, Erica. Everyone else. Lori.
Hey, how are you?
Wow, I didn't know it was going to be.
Oh, so you are running the presentation, Adam, from your end?
I am happy to, or if someone else wants to, they are welcome to, whatever is easiest.
Yeah, let me run through them because I'll be presenting, 90% of the slides. So
Then let me make sure that you have ability to screen share.
that'd be great.
Okay, you should be good. That is much easier. Thank you.
Yep.
And I will stop sharing. We'll close that.
That is up now. Do you know, is there a way to do full screen and not have it take my entire laptop? If it's a PDF?
Maybe Principal Munns knows, because I only know. This is so embarrassing. Sometimes I fall into teacher TikTok, where the teachers who are on TikTok explain how to do it, but I don't know personally.
You know what? You don't have two computers, do you? Do you have two laptops?
Oh, here it is. I think this will work, but the problem is I have my notes that I'll have to do on another laptop. No worries. I think that'll work.
Yeah. I usually use two laptops.
Yes. Okay.
Teaching, I use chalk. It was exciting when you got colored chalk. When the principal poured colored chalk for you. This technology thing has thrown me into a quick learn.
Okay. I hope this works. If not, we'll just wing it. Yeah, the meeting is not open yet, right, Adam? Scroll through the slides. Okay.
So, Adam, I saw the runner show when the questions come up. Are you going to read out how are we going to do? We're going to read out and then we'll determine.
So Lori, sorry, Adam's on the
Okay.
with the alderman. This is Erica. So Adam will go through the questions. He'll ask them, and then we sort of identified who we thought might want to answer the question, but feel free to jump in at any time.
Okay.
But Adam is very good at this.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We're just gonna follow his lead, and the question, in the webinar version, you can choose, which questions you're gonna discuss.
Yeah, and I'll be monitoring the chat, and I if you have folks from your team, if there's questions too, we can all kind of monitor the chat and Q&A. You guys make a beautiful PowerPoint.
Oh.
Erica?
Yes, Brian?
Ivan is trying to get on. It says it's waiting for the host. Let him in.
Okay, I think Adam
Am I
is.
putting in a good word for the host?
Yeah. Hey, is Ivan trying to come in is Ivan supposed to be a panelist?
You know, he can be. He should be.
Okay, let me get Ivan a different link then. If you can tell him to watch his email, that would be great.
Yep.
Okay, give me just a, we had some people who signed up late.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Ivan should be a panelist on every single panel.
Do we know Ivan's email address off the top of your head?
It has a 2 in it.
Adam,
Yeah.
I can send it to you in a sec.
Okay,
Last name is Hansen. I think there's a middle initial.
Yeah,
Hansen
it's IHANSEN2 at cps.edu. ihansen2 at cps.edu.
okay. I just sent that link to him. So he will have that. Are we ready, everyone else, to let folks into the room?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna let people in. So everything will be recorded from here on out, and you will be on camera unless, or you will not be on camera unless you are speaking, but sometimes the mute button gets hit and sometimes so does video. So be careful, folks. All right. Good evening, everyone. We've given folks a few minutes to get in from the waiting room, and it looks like our attendance has leveled out. So we will go ahead and get started. Beautiful evening. So important topic, but want to see if we can split the time between the evening and this as well. Again, good evening. My name is Adam Roberts. I serve as the Deputy Chief of Staff for 39th Ward Alderman Samantha Nugent. Tonight, I'll be moderating with our team. Alderman Nugent's Chief of Staff, Erica Wozniak, is also on, who will be helping out with the chat box, answering some questions that way, and providing additional technical support. A few logistics before we begin tonight's meeting. The meeting is being recorded. Your microphone has been muted and will remain so for the duration of this meeting. We'll have a designated time for questions and answers at the end of the meeting, and we'll get to answer the pre-submitted questions that were put in before the meeting. If time allows, we will go through the answers that have been submitted through the chat box as well. Additionally, due to the size of the group this evening, we encourage you to be mindful of the length and frequency of your questions. We're always happy to connect offline for more in-depth questions and get you the answers you would like. Again, thank you for joining us this evening, and I'd like to welcome Alderman Samantha Nugent to begin our meeting.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Adam, for that. And good evening, everyone. It's nice to be here with this panel. And for all the folks that have logged on from their home. A large thank you to the Sauganash Local School Council, the PTO, Principal Munns, the Sauganash school staff, parents, students, and the entire community in Sauganash for working on getting this project approved. This was definitely a team effort, and I'm grateful that pretty soon students are going to be able to attend their neighborhood public school without having to be in a classroom with more than 40 other students. Sauganash is currently well over 123% of capacity. So this is a very welcome project that we're doing. I'm excited to have the opportunity tonight to learn from my colleagues on this panel and of course share the plans with the community about what we're looking to do here. So thanks everyone for joining us. And with that, I will hand it over to Principal Munns.
Oh, good evening. Thank you, Alderman Nugent. I am so excited. We cannot wait for this edition. We are absolutely in dire need, that's for sure. We're excited that we're going to have 3 classrooms per grade level. We'll also be able to start our universal preschool, and we'll have 3 classrooms for preschool as well. We'll have a ton of space. No more teachers in the hallways or the stairwells or working on a cart. All of our specialist teachers will have their own music room, their own art room, STEM, a brand new gymnasium. So I can't wait for all of this to unveil with all the details. So excited and couldn't have done this without all the parents' support, staff support, and students, and our aldermen, as well as our network chief. CPS heard us loud and clear. We had our needs and they are going to be met. So I'm excited for the presentation to begin. So I'm going to head it off to, would you like the PBC, the presentation to begin?
Yes, thank you. Lori, would you like to start with some intros and information about the project before I get going?
Sure. Thank you, community, for joining our call today. The Public Building Commission will be responsible for building the annex with our partners at CPS. We will give some context information, project overview today, open up for Q&A. As you saw from the flyer, to attend today, we have a contact information from Bryant Payne. I know a lot of you contacted him over the weekend, and we want to make sure that you continue to do so. We will have a dedicated page just for this project, so you can keep up to date as well. And we will circle back at the end. So I'm going to turn it over to Cal Lejeune, who will give the project overview. On the call today, we have our Chief Development Officer, Ray Gitteroff, and I am Lori Lipson. I didn't even introduce myself. And so we'll go ahead and get started. And we are happy to hear your questions later on in the presentation. Thanks, Cal.
Thank you, Lori. And good evening, everyone. I'm gonna flip the slides here as soon as it behaves. So I'm excited to tell you a lot about what's been going on to date with the annex and renovation project that is planned for the school. Very quickly, the status of the project. First, I'll let you know, Cal Lejeune, Deputy Director of Planning and Design at the Public Building Commission. And quick update, the design architect to date has been Leggett Architects, that's been working with an associate architect, Urban Works. They're a WBE firm that have been working diligently up to date to generate the package that you will see today. Moving on from that standpoint, we will then have Rada Architects that will be the architect of record, along with Brush Architects as the associate architect, working with them as a package team to develop the next series of phases of the project into design documents, construction documents, and then managing the construction. The design has already gone through the 50% design phase, and we're now working to complete the 100% schematic design phase. This is a phase where the planning aspects, the overall programming is done. It identifies how we put this together in terms of a building volume, the various floors, the windows, the fenestrations, to kind of package that so we can move on to the next steps as we go through. And to date, the delivery of the project is planned for school opening in Q1 of 2023. So to give you a bit of bearing, this is an aerial view that is looking west of the site. To your left, you'll see the existing turf field. To the middle of the school, the main building that sort of runs north-south. And then the 2011 addition that was done to the school as a way of augmenting the capacity for classrooms, which the principal as well as the alderman talked about. And the big, large kind of, it's kind of purple on my screen, maybe it's a different color in your screen, is identifying where the proposal is intended for the new annex that will be part of this entire campus. Just overall, while we're looking at this, we're not doing any work to the south end or the left side of the school. We really are focusing in the area where the colored rectangle is, and then the series of landscaping that are around it. So we'll know more about it as the slides continue through. Big overview. On the left side column, we have the existing main school building done in 1929. The addition of that gymnasium was done in 1954. Total square footage, 11 classrooms, library, administrative suite, boys and girls toilets, teachers lounge, and then the gymnasium that has the stage and office and kitchen. So this had stood until 2011, and then we built the new addition, which added some additional classrooms, 12 classrooms, along with a science lab, kitchen and dining facility on the lower level. Then we had the boys and girls toilets, and then a large mechanical plant and chiller well that service both this the south addition as well as some aspects of the existing main school building. It had a green roof, some site stormwater infiltration, and then the parking lot was redone, which was the location of the old modular building that was removed, and then the parking lot was added with 30 spaces that includes 2 accessible. The new scope that we're looking at, the right column now, is focusing on the rendering that we saw quickly that had the rectangle with the colored portion. Has about a 37,500 square foot 3-story building on the north end. It will have atypical classrooms, 2 pre-Ks, which are generally on the lower level, with toilet and storage, a dedicated art classroom with a kiln to fire and have storage for the arts and crafts, a science classroom, 1 STEM classroom, and a music classroom with storage. Part of the scope is identifying the removal of the existing gymnasium and building a new sort of state-of-the-art 2-position gymnasium and multi-purpose space. It will also have a stage along with the functions that are related to offices and storage and so forth for that use. Some administrative offices, counseling rooms on the upper levels. We'll be able to see this in all the floor plans, but student boys and toilets, all gender toilets, that allows for staff and specific students to use. And then as always, for accessibility, there'll be an elevator that provides access to all levels of the new annex, but also since it's connected to the existing main building, will provide access to both of those levels. And then the surrounding annex will have some site development and landscaping that's related to that scope. And then as part of the new annex, we have some renovations that are happening in the existing main school building. And both of these are projected for Q1 2023 when it's all set and ready and done. We'll be doing some abatement and demolition of that existing 1954 gymnasium that was added. Then we'll be converting as part of the school at that same location to create the link to the new annex, converting a workroom, conversion of a workroom with storage to create a typical classroom. So that will add to the count of what we're showing above with the atypical classrooms as part of developing the whole campus of what the principal mentioned to have 3 classrooms per grade. And then we'll be doing some mechanical upgrades to the existing air handling system for the school so that the whole campus will have a very cohesive mechanical plant. So moving on a bit, one of the things that the team was very keen on is to make sure that there is continuum in how the design of the project conceptually is managed. You'll see in the documents that we're going to show you that there's sensitivities to the context of not only just the existing school, but also how it fits within the neighborhood in terms of its scale, in terms of how we handle the fenestration, making sure that the materials are consistent and cohesive to an entire campus when you look at it, especially taking cues from what we did in 2011. Moving over, this kind of shows you an idea of where we're taking some of those cues, looking at window pattern on the left, looking at recessed entries or glazing treatment, looking at kind of the consistency of windows, creating a ribbon as a way of showing an architectural feature. looking at some of the accents and the color of the brick. All of those things are cues that we looked at in the 2011 edition in the existing school to make sure that when we're adding this other annex, it will become a very cohesive campus in the end. So this is the site plan that kind of pulls everything together. You're seeing the existing turf field on the left. Actually, I'm going to move my mouse. You can see the turf field on the left. This is the addition that was done in 2011. The existing 1929 main school building is in the center. And then on the north end is where we're proposing the new annex, of which beneath there you see the dash line of the existing gymnasium that will be removed and then built as part of the new annex for a gymnasium multi-purpose space. It's also showing the existing service access from Lamont Avenue that allows the school to handle its trash, mechanical systems access, and so forth. That will remain. The parking lot itself is existing at 30 spaces. We're not affecting or changing the parking lot. The notes here is identifying that the zoning minimum based on the FTE, or the full-time equivalent of teachers and staff within the school, is calculated as at a 1-to-3 ratio. And as such, with 30 spaces, we're over that zoning requirement since it's only 23. And one of the things that's important about this is a very tight site, as you already know, and we're trying to work within the confines of the zoning requirements. And one of the things that was key is that some things were impacted, but we tried as best as possible to avoid going into massive zoning related issues for the project. So as such, there are really 3 things that we're managing. One is the overall site, the fact that it is over 2 acres, and not having to go through a plan development. We will ask for a waiver, which is not atypical for doing projects like this. And then there are 2 aspects that we will need relief on. The first is the east part of the building that encroaches within the side yard, and that is the red line that is showing that encroachment. And then second is the fact that when we build eventually these 3 buildings in aggregate square footage is over what the allowable area of floor that we can build on the site. So as such, we will ask for an administrative relief just to clear that up with the zoning. Again, this is extremely typical in many of the projects that PBC has done on behalf of CPS. Moving into the landscape plan, it's now rotating. So plan is now looking, up north. So Hiawatha is on the north end here. We have Kilpatrick to the east here, and then we have Lamont Avenue over to the west. So what it's showing here is the key aspect of understanding how trees are impacted on the site as a result of having this new annex located on the north end of the school. So showing the existing building to the south, the existing main building, I should say. And then you'll see sort of lightly the footprint of where the annex sits and the fact that it impacts a total of 7 trees. Some are large, some are small, but the graphic shows that we have 2 large trees and then the remainder are smaller, medium-sized trees. We were able to document the species of each of these trees to know their types and understand that they will be removed. The key aspect is that we are now then going as the proposal to be in kind and create that replacement so that we're not losing trees. We're putting back the same quantity of trees on the site to make sure that we're consistent with kind of the natural aspects of the site. So you've seen the proposed annex here and the northern portion connected to the existing school building. And then it's identifying the 7 trees that are being replaced along the site, and then the additional landscaping that we're adding to surround to continue to beautify this as a campus for what we are looking to do. To the left, the existing parking lot is shown existing because we're not impacting the spaces nor the count related to the parking lot. Moving on, so we're going to look at the series of floor plans that makes up the annex as a proposal. This is a partial basement that shows again the outline of the annex. It has the partial basement for the mechanical room that will provide services that will link back to the upgrade that is inside the existing main school building. So this annex is functioning not only as just a new complex for its own set of services, but it's also creating an upgrade in order to recirculate some of those systems back into the main building and upgrade that system so that, again, it's all about the campus to make sure that it's all working cohesively as one building. So the partial basement is just mechanical space with boiler systems and piping, the pit for the elevator. We're going to move up one level, but it's showing one of the aspects of zoning and Department of Buildings is that we're handling the stormwater management system through an underground storage tank, which is shown here in a rectangle, as a way of making sure that the flow of water doesn't impact the city system for stormwater. So as it rains, as we get all that excess water, we'll be capturing, holding it, and then over time dispersing that value in a very controlled rate to make sure that we don't overload the system, because that impacts a neighborhood certainly when that is happening. So this is a great way of managing that, and Department of Water Management have been very susceptible, and that process works really well. So moving on to the next level, this is the first floor level. Of course, there is a level difference between the main school building, which is raised, and then our level for the annex, which is at grade. So that transition is being made right where the link of the new annex and the existing school resides. The layout is a double loaded corridor where at the end of it on the east side is the 2-position gymnasium with bleachers on the east side of the space. You have the raised stage to the southern end, and then some support spaces as well as a lift that will allow for accessibility to move from this base level of the gym and then up to the stage. Down the corridor, we have the 2 sets of pre-K classrooms along with associated storage and their toilet facilities. The mechanical space is on this level. It is part of the plant that is providing the annex proper, but then we know in the partial basement, it will supply the existing main building. Toilet facilities along with the all gender, couple of sets of stairs on either end in order to create access from the upper levels down. And then the elevator that will service both this main level access that will take you up at a 5-foot level up into this, down into this grade in order to create that level difference. So accessibility for this annex will be provided at grade from the exterior, well, you will always have access directly into the main building for someone in a wheelchair or any other handicap accessibility requirements. Moving up one more level, we will have, since the gymnasium is a 2-story level, it is open to below, but you'll have an opportunity on this upper corridor to look down and see the activities inside the gymnasium. On the northern side, we have 3 typical classrooms. These are the 30 per classrooms along with all of the amenities and teaching walls that are part of the CPS standards. Stairwells are still located in the same areas. The toilet blocking facilities happen in this point at every level. The connection access at the same level between the existing main building and annex is located here. And then this is the art, the dedicated art room that is shown in the green legend here on the right. So the art room is here. You have all the associated storage that is accessible from that room. And then this is a room where the kiln itself, where you fire clay and you do all of your arts and crafts activities that are part of this art room. Moving up one more level, which is now the 3rd level, since the existing main building is only 2 stories, this is not a roof of the existing main building. So on the 3rd level of the annex, we have the classrooms again that are typical, shown in the light blue. Down on the eastern end are the 2 STEM classrooms. So one is a dedicated STEM room and the other is a science classroom. They both have dedicated storage for the large activities as part of the classrooms. And then they have access to the corridor that will serve on the end here as a music classroom, which is an oversized space where the band and other related music classroom activities happen, along with a dedicated storage for that room. And this is where they'll control and have back and forth relationships for the storage that they use. And then on this level, We do not have an access to the main building, but we do have a roof-mounted chiller as a way of providing and completing the systems of the annex, as well as what it's supplying for the existing building. So moving on a bit from the floor plans, we're taking a look at the elevation. So if you imagine yourself standing on North Kilpatrick Avenue and looking west, you will see the existing main school building here that's sort of lighter and in the background. And then this is the eastern face of the new annex. So what it's showing here is the double story of the gymnasium volume that is inside. And then the upper level, the third floor, where those two STEM focused classrooms. So this is the science classroom, and this is the STEM classroom on the north end. And the key thing that we wanted to show here is that the 2011 edition, which is shown in actual scale, has the same relationship, the same design acumen, the same dealings in terms of windows, in terms of the banding that we're being consistent with, so that it matches in many ways the same vocabulary that we did in 2011 for the project. So you can see those relationships between corner stairwells, windows, the ribbons, and some of the same elements to be consistent. Moving on to the other elevation. So this is the northern elevation where you're standing from Hiawatha and looking south at the school. And you're seeing now kind of the annex showing the two-story volume of the gym. The stage is on the opposite end. And then now you're seeing the STEM classroom and then the typical classrooms that are marching along on the upper level. The second level are classrooms, and then the lower level are the two pre-K rooms with the storage and toilet facilities that are up at this level. And just as we saw before, we were seeing the same treatment that was done in 2011 in the annex to the south, that the same design vocabulary is shown here on the northern part stairwell. So this kind of helps you a little bit to look at it three-dimensionally, a little vignette that's, again, standing at Kilpatrick, looking back at the annex. So the two-story gymnasium is here. The stage is about this location here. You're seeing the science classroom with the other classroom, and the STEM is on the upper end. Again, keeping the same vocabulary that was done in 2011. And then the school is in the background with the entrance that is there. One more vignette. So this is looking now, basically standing at the entrance of the existing parking lot. This is the existing gate that exists there now. And you're seeing the volume of the building to the north. And in the background, that is the existing 1929 building that is beyond. And then much, much further back, you're seeing the 2011 edition. The intent is to show you here the existing 2011 building on the left to see how close the vocabulary in terms of brick type, the brise-soleils, the treatment of the visual curtain wall, all of the punch fenestration. We're being very consistent here deliberately to make sure that the vocabulary is the same. So moving on a bit. So the schedule for the project, in terms of where we are, we're basically in March. So we have gone through the pre-planning, pre-design, and due diligence on the project, starting in late 2020 to where we are now. The design team is working to finish the schematic design phase. We recently appointed the architect of record, and that is Rada Architects, who will be taking this project over into the next steps, into the design and construction documents for us to procure and then move on to the next steps. The planning for that will go through Q2 of 21 to Q3 of 2021. And then we move into the procurement of the general contractor, which would be the bid, the award, and then assigning an NTP to the successful general contractor, which will start working through that process in Q3, Q4, so that we can begin construction in Q4 2021. And the cycle will go through from that point on at the end of this year till 2023 and Q1, where we will deliver the facility and then have the opening at that point. So I think this is the point where I'll turn this over to Ray Gitteroff, who's the Chief Development Officer at the PBC, to talk more about next steps related to construction. Ray?
Thank you, Cal. Like Cal said, my name is Bray Gitteroff. I'm the Chief Development Officer at the Public Building Commission. Alderman and Principal, thank you for letting us present at this community meeting. And then our partners at CPS, Ivan and the team, thank you very much. I think that, Cal, this is great work with Leggett and Urban Works and getting the design to this point, and we're looking forward to working with RADA. One of the alderman's main concerns and the principal's main concerns were, how are we going to work in this condensed area and ensure that everybody is safe? That includes all the parents, the students, the faculty, and all of the surrounding residents. One of the things that we take great pride in, CPS and PBC, is ensuring everybody's safety. That is paramount for us. Prior to the contractor mobilizing to the project site, we will require the general contractor to provide a mobilization and logistics plan. And that simply would indicate what days, what hours they're going to be working, how they're going to access the site, how they're going to exit the site, what safety measures and protocols are going to be in place, including and not limited to their project-specific COVID-19 protocols that CPS and PBC implemented well over a year ago. In addition to that, one of the concerns was related to parking. Thanks to the alderman's input, we've reached out to local businesses, including Queen of All Saints, Whole Foods, the Polish National Alliance, Eden's Restaurant, and other surrounding businesses that are going to partner with us to ensure that our general contractor has access to parking. We'll coordinate that ahead of time, and that will also be stipulated in the mobilization and logistics plan. The last thing that we want to do is disrupt the principal's operations at the school and disrupt the residents that are living in this community. We previously built the first annex, learned a lot of lessons, and we've learned a lot of lessons over the last couple of decades about how to work in these communities without being disruptive. The other thing that we're going to do, and Lori has this slide here as a sample, prior to starting any work, our commission representative will be on site full-time during construction. We'll distribute these flyers, and the flyer basically indicates the fact that we're going to be building the annex, and there's going to be some noise with regard to the dust. We'll make sure that the mobilization and logistics plan properly addresses the dust issue. But this is more to advise all of the residents, and then principal, from your perspective, to ensure that all the parents are also aware that we're going to be starting work on X month. It's going to run through Y month, and all of the different parameters that we're going to establish. That concludes my statement regarding mobilization logistics and how we're going to build this school without being disruptive to the school or the local community.
Great, thank you, Ray. And really the last, before we go to Q&A, is to identify the flyer that I believe everyone received, and the contact person down at the bottom, Brian Payne. And as Laurie mentioned, some of you have already contacted Brian with some questions, and we'll be able to run through those in the Q&A portion. So any questions of issues but beyond this presentation, feel free to contact Brian. His email is down below, as well as his phone number for that. And I think that concludes the presentation. A lot there. Appreciate your patience, and we're now in the Q&A portion, which I think Adam is now taking over.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you for the presentation. My ask is if we can stay on the presentation screen share, that might be helpful to provide some context to several of the answers. So I'll rely on you to flip through those if you don't mind. We'll go ahead and start. Presentation, or the questions kind of range from micro to macro here. So our first one, will the water fountains in the new annex have lead filters at every station?
Hi, my name's Brian Zitter with Chicago Public Schools. I'll go ahead and take that question. The new annex will not, so the question is, will the annex have filters at the water fountains? As discussed with our facilities team, all fixtures are rated or are tested after install and before turned over for use. As for ongoing testing, CPS is currently in the middle of a 4-year testing program where every fixture in 25% of the school is tested every year for over 4 years. And as the question to filters is, are they installed or not? Filters currently for lead are only rated for 5 parts per million, while the state law says all water fountains have to be below 2 parts per million.
Thank you. How will Sauganash ensure the annex includes enough gymnasium space so every student can have gym 3 times a week?
I can at least go back to the plan and show you, because that's a little easier to talk about the program space. So I didn't mention, but within this gymnasium, there is a divider curtain that is, you can see it here, but it's rather light, but it divides the space so that you can have separate functions on either side. The bleachers will be available and allocated for whichever function it is available. And then that'll be managed through the school. And I don't know if the principal wants to add more in terms of operations of classes and students.
So I'll just add what can happen is there'll be 2 gym classes simultaneously going on either side of the curtain. In addition, as the school grows with population, we may have to utilize even our field as what we do now, as weather permits. So it will comfortably fit gym for the 2 classes at a time for 8 periods a day.
Thank you.
I was going to say, just which is nice is because it is different. Currently, some of our students have gym in the cafeteria where they switch off. So this is a huge win for Sauganash.
Perfect. Keeping with questions kind of surrounding that gymnasium space, will that include a larger or additional cafeteria?
I think you should speak to that, principal, if you could.
You want me to? Okay, because I don't know what to know. I know it was someone else's answers, but yes, no, the cafeteria will remain exclusive for the cafeteria. So there'll be plenty of space not only for all lunches that we are serving. Currently, we have 3 lunch periods. At our highest point, we had 4 lunch periods. So it will suffice for sure.
Thank you. What planning is in place so that if enrollment does increase, then the school can handle those numbers without compromising a student's educational experience? What type of forecasting has been conducted to ensure the annex meets the minimum requirements for these increased numbers?
Hi, so I can answer that. Good evening, everyone. My name is Laura Roman with CPS in the Office of Intergovernmental Affairs. So the short answer is yes, an enrollment projection was taken into account during CPS's approval process for this project. And what occurred was our planning and data management department assessed the previous 3 to 4 enrollment trends for the school and the community, and use those as data point for our future projections for the school.
Thank you.
And Laura, I'll just add on that, we are projecting 3 classes per grade level. So we're currently our 5th through 8th grade only has 2 classes. So we will be expanding there. And again, on the other end, we'll have our 3 preschool pre-K programs.
Another question about the preschool, pre-K. What is the estimated time that those programs will begin at Sauganash School? And how will the annex accommodate for reduced class sizes across the school?
So I'll take this one. I know that the projected completion date will be January of 2023. So I need to reach out to Universal Pre-K if that could start in January, or if it would start, I don't think it would be able to start in September, or if it's a 2024 projection date. So I don't want to be misleading on that.
Wonderful. Could we just clarify how many more classrooms are projected and what types of classrooms those are that will be in the new annex? Maybe that previous slide.
Yeah, I can start a little bit here. Yep, because this slide really this slide here sort of focuses on, in many ways, tells you all of the classrooms that are available, right? There's 11 classrooms in the existing main building. That there's no reduction in that because it's really a conversion to the same number of classrooms. The existing South Addition has 12 classrooms. You see the specialties there in terms of science. And then the new Annex has a series of dedicated classrooms. There's art, science, STEM, and music. And then the 2 pre-Ks on the lower level, or I should say grade level, and then the 8 typical classrooms. So the count here will handle the 3 classrooms per grade that's discussed by the principal.
Focusing in on the intentionality of those specific uses for the classrooms, what type of thought has been given to providing appropriate classroom space for separate classes for special education students?
Principal, please.
So there are classrooms, I know it's on the second, but there are classrooms dedicated for special education. That's where it becomes a little bit more flexibility there, depending on students' individualized education plan. There are shared rooms where teachers can utilize, whether they are pushing into the classroom or if they've got to pull out, for instance, if they need to take an assessment of some sort, there's plenty of space for the special education classrooms as well.
Next question focuses on some existing things that the school already has, particularly a library, computer lab, things of that nature. Will those stay in their current positions or will they move with the new annex?
So the library, we have better utilization with the classroom libraries in each classroom. So the classrooms are equipped each year with additional books. So there isn't a librarian that you have to find that library book once a week and try to go and do a checkout. There again, literature is embedded in many of our curriculum, including culturally responsive texts, etc. So those are constantly updated every year as a teacher's request. And then the computer lab or one of the things we also haven't talked about, as we grow, I need to meet the needs of the CTU contract, which means providing additional specials for our students and preparatory time for our teachers. So that would possibly include like a Spanish teacher, maybe an additional gym teacher, technology. So those, not only like the Spanish teacher doesn't need a dedicated room, she would perhaps go into one of the homerooms and teach Spanish. So that's why it gives us flexibility. And that's really what we asked for in learning what we did with the Annex 1, that we make sure that we have flexibility in how we ebb and flow with our student population, as well as requirements that are needed both from ISB and or CPS.
Thank you, Principal Munns. We'll transition here into a few of the questions that have come through the chat. I'm just keeping an eye on the time. It's about 7:15, so we'll go through these with haste so we can ask and answer as many as possible. In regards to the timeline, does Q1 2023 refer to January 2023 or September, which would be the first quarter of the school year?
Brian, did you?
Yeah, it is intended to be from January to March is the Q1 of 2023. It is not September.
Thank you. Our next question. The person understands that what they're looking at in the plan seems to be a 3-story, mostly opaque brick wall right up against the sidewalk on the east side of the addition. I do not understand this as a result of positioning and function of a new gym space. Is there any concern for the impact that this placement might have on neighboring homes and what the massing will do? What has been an open view to the corner of the campus?
So in looking at this sort of vignette, it identifies the quantity of fenestration right now that exists on the north end of the school. So in question, the series of classrooms that are fronting basically directly on Hiawatha provides quite a bit of viewing sight lines and opening in order to create their relationship, so that from the sidewalk, which I think you can sort of see there on the front end, will create a very seamless opportunity for that relationship to happen continuously. It really doesn't take away from it. Prior to that, you were effectively looking at the gymnasium, which was a solid face, but in this case, you've got the classrooms, the pre-K is on the lower level, and then the typical classrooms on the upper level that provides quite a bit of opening to the street as well as the sidewalk.
Thank you. Back to the gymnasium auditorium space. Oh, Principal Munns, did you have something to add? No, okay. Back to the auditorium gymnasium space. Can we show that, and what's the square footage? What's the size of that? Graduations and specials are an issue, as there's usually only standing room only for those events.
You want me to take that?
Yeah, or is there a way that we can give an estimation of exactly how big the space might be or its capacity?
I don't
Go
know.
ahead, Principal. You know a lot more about the operations of the school. Feel free to let us know.
I will, but I don't know the capacity of the gymnasium. I do know that it will be air conditioned, so that's a wonderful thing, considering we usually graduate in June and it can be some hot and sticky days. The gymnasium is far bigger, I'm assuming, and then let me know, bigger than the cafeteria. So I know when we've had graduation or performances, it's been in the cafeteria that allows for that extra space. And yes, I agree, there are always standing room, but this should provide a larger space, air conditioned with a stage, and I'm assuming sound system, etc. So that will support both graduation and performances. Don't know the square footage of that room though.
In the chat, we updated it's approximately 4,000 square feet.
Thank you.
Thank you. So a sizable room. In the question of air conditioning, will this include any upgrades for the HVAC system to allow improved air cleaning for the next pandemic? There is a next pandemic?
Maybe CPS can take that response. I mean, we're updating, certainly this is a new system for the Annex. So the Annex for sure will have as much purity in the air as we can possibly provide based on the efficiency systems that we have. Part of upgrading the system that is in the existing main building will also create that upgrade to the air handler, of which we're now bringing up to a better upgrade in order to supply the existing school. So we effectively are taking this as a campus. There is a 2011 that was done recently. We're adding an Annex with new systems, but we're upgrading the existing main system to be up to par so that the whole campus will have better systems in terms of mechanical.
Hi, Adam. Brian Zitter, to add to what Cal just described, is that all CPS HVAC systems are designed to the Chicago Building Code, which mirrors ASHRAE standards for air turnover rate.
All right, so it sounds like a new system there. We'll ask the next one. With the school, with the boundary of the Annex pushing closer to the streets, are there plans to mitigate the speed of traffic or foot traffic on Hiawatha and Kilpatrick?
Adam, this is Ray. I'll answer that.
Okay.
So we'll take great care in that we recognize that we're going to create additional traffic. Our contractors will be required to provide flaggers during all their work activities, specifically, Alderman, Principal, as it relates to when they're going to deliver. We will also place restrictions on the contractors' work deliveries during student drop off and pickup so we can ensure everybody's safety. So we'll take great measures in making sure that everybody's safe, Adam.
All right. With the size of the school expanding and in capacity as well, will Sauganash stay strictly a neighborhood school?
Principal or Alderman?
I don't know if I have the power to say so, but yes, I'm hoping it only stays as a neighborhood school. Obviously, we're growing to provide the neighborhood with, a neighborhood school, and would not like to see it turned into something else. So yes, I'm hoping a neighborhood. And just to piggyback on the last question, I just want you to know we work very closely with the contractors. They communicate well with us every day. I apologize for the dog in the background. And also want to make sure that you are aware that we will communicate to parents. There are days that we don't allow construction when there's assessments going on, and deliveries, all of that. So safety is absolutely our #1 priority. And the nice thing about this is that it is located in one section of the school, the north end of the building, where it still allows us to have school on the south end, in addition to the children being able to go outside for recess on the field.
Thank you. Next question. This person has watched the process of another CPS annex in the area. The entire process took longer than originally projected and unfortunately led to difficulties with traffic, parking, etc. It's understandable that the work needs to be done, but what can be done to have contractors? I think we kind of answered that. Could we speak a little bit to what the schedule might be like during those breaks, winter break, summer break, and when the bulk of the work is really going to be getting done?
Sure, Adam, this is Ray again. And I read the question, so a lot of great points there. We intend on taking full advantage of daylight and any holidays that the school has, including any non-student days, in order to execute our work. I'm not certain which annex school was referenced, but we've worked successfully with CPS to deliver our most recent annexes on schedule. We'll continue to do that, and the principal and the alderman and CPS will get regular updates from us as well, so that if there is an event where there's a delay or we have to mitigate the schedule, we'll plan accordingly. And principal, first and foremost, you're going to know exactly what we're doing and how we're going to do it.
Another thing I would add, we do have weekly construction meetings. So that's another thing that administration and the engineer will attend.
That's a good point, principal.
Thank you. Are there any plans to use the solar panels that are on top of the original annex that may or may not have been hooked up?
Don't know the history of the solar panels. I think we're focusing on this project for this annex and its relationship to the main school building. We can certainly look into that, and if there's information that we can bring back, we can work on it.
Thank you. All right, it's about 7:25. We'll ask just a few more questions to leave time for some closing remarks. If you do have questions, though, please take the next few minutes to put them in the chat so that we can get them on record. We can take them back and get written answers to those as well. We will be monitoring that so that we can get the appropriate answers, but mindful of time, we've got about 5 minutes, so we'll ask a few more and then wrap things up. Our next question, in the continuum slide, you visually reference the mosaic mural on Peterson. The mural speaks to the history and development of the neighborhood, highlighting the neighborhood's National Historic Registration. The Art Deco gymnasium being demolished is mentioned as a contributor in the registry. Will there be any efforts to capture that disappearing design anywhere else? We saw the gym entry in the architectural language. How exciting to maybe borrow elements from that, and can we see that kind of side-to-side comparison again to understand the vocabulary of the new design?
Yes, the question is yes. We are planning to look at salvaging some information from the existing gymnasium. You don't see it in this slide here, but there are some elements of that eastern-facing facade of the gymnasium that we will salvage and figure out opportunities where we can incorporate that in the new annex. So that is already in the planning, but we are early in the process of planning and early design. We will know more as the project develops.
Thank you. All right, we'll take one more question here. Can the capital planning team share the growth forecast? Do we have any sort of numbers that are public information for the next 5 to 10 years and how that might affect the school?
Laura?
Yeah, so we can follow up with that question. currently don't have someone on the line from our data planning department, but we can certainly circle back and provide the projections that we get for this building for the school.
Okay, thank you. And I'm gonna pop this next one in here because it's a good one. I think it's a positive one to end on here. And then that will mean we've actually answered everything in the chat as well. Can we explain kind of the purpose of tonight's meeting and what role the community has in neighborhood review and approval or blessing, if you will, of the design, and what we do with the feedback that was collected at this evening's meeting?
It's probably more of an overall question, and CPS can add to this. But I think for us is to early on not only solve the problem of the issue of having a program and try and put it together in a very complex site, but also to start to give ideas of where the projections are in terms of solving that problem, and doing it architecturally that impacts or doesn't impact certain aspects that are on the site. We have 2 existing buildings. We have a very complex turf field to the south. So we needed to go through this process to identify the best location to serve the function of the new program, but also maintaining the existing parking lot as a key component to the site. So I think this is an idea very early on to bring that forth and say that we've got a solution that we're developing and working through. There's still a lot of work to be done in the design process to work through all of the challenges that are on the site. And this is a way of getting the initial kind of feedback, which all of you have been gracious to share. And we'll go back and work on all of these things to make sure that we can deliver a project that fits the community, that answers the needs of the school, looks at the kind of long-term projection of the pedagogy of all the students in here, and everything else that CPS and all their partners are working to do for this project. I don't know if CPS has anything more to add, or Principal.
No, for CPS, this is part of the process of a project being introduced to the school, the aldermen, and community. And with what Cal was saying in the complexity, we also were aware of other suggestions of how to land this building and where to put this building. So what we, for normal standard practices for every project, for every neighborhood that we introduce a project with, it's custom for us in the Public Building Commission to introduce a project and to give light to not only what we have accomplished so far to date and how we will continue to accomplish those stakeholder concerns or stakeholder remarks for each one of these schools. And this will be possibly one of many. For again, we are at a very early stage of this project when it comes to design. There will be another opportunity to show exactly what the building will pan out and look. And from there, another community meeting will be held just to show the final product. Or in between some, just to give updates to the community and other stakeholders, just to show that there is transparency between CPS, the Public Building Commission, the principal, and the alderman's office with the community.
I think, Brian, you did a great job in summing it up. I would just add, we will definitely, I know Mr. Kennedy will be taking pictures, so there'll be a time lapse of how it gets built. For anybody in the community, I know the parents are aware of this, but for anybody in the community, if you would like to sign up to receive our weekly newsletters, I know that we will be putting updates in there, as well as at the local school council meetings and PTO meetings. So please feel free to sign up to receive our newsletter, and that information is on our website where you can find the link to sign up.
Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for your answers, for the presentation. Just a few moments here. Principal Munns, was there anything you wanted to add to kind of close us out, and then some final words from the alderman?
I really think this is a fantastic awesome thing for our students and the community. I've always felt that the school is part of the community, center of the community. We've got a great student population and parents that I know have been working hard to get this addition. Our staff will be ecstatic. They will have space. They will have learning environments that can be utilized for not only encouraging student learning, but also creativity. I'm excited for our specials teachers to have some great spaces that I would say many colleagues at other schools do not. I will say that the nice thing is it's the second edition that I've gone through at the school. So having some history, and Brian and I were talking about that last week, of having some history together, and we will continue to work together. And I think communication, being transparent, it's just so well deserved for everybody, the students most importantly. So we're excited, we're thrilled. And again, I can't thank LSC, PTO, staff, students, parents, everybody was involved in getting, making sure the CPS heard our voices. So I do want to take the opportunity to not only thank CPS and Dr. Jackson and her team, but also Alderman Nugent and her team as well. We worked well together on both sides, talking in both ears at CPS. So we made it happen. So kudos to everybody.
Thank you for that, Principal Munns. Listen, thank you everybody for being here tonight. I thought this was a really great meeting. I am thrilled for this project to happen. I can't think of, it's just to have 3 classrooms per grade from our littles all the way up to our 8th graders is something that our children deserve, and it's the right thing for this school and this community. And you guys all advocated tirelessly for this. Principal Munns, PTO, LSC, faculty, the students, and thanks to the friends at PBC and CPS for helping us get here, and also Dr. Jackson. So folks, if you have other ideas or suggestions, we'll clearly get back to anything that you left in the chat we didn't get to, but you can continue to reach out to our office. We'll make sure to funnel your concerns to the appropriate folks and get you answers. And I'll work really hard with the partners that I'm on the Zoom machine with tonight to make sure that for the folks in the community, this is as minimally burdensome as possible as the construction happens. But I think this is going to be a real win for the community and the kids and everybody involved. So thank you all for your time, and have a really good rest of your evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.